So I asked you guys on my Instagram page a while ago, what was the one thing that you felt was missing from your birth preparation classes? And an astounding number of you said there was very little or not enough preparation around what it actually looks like to be a mother in those newborn days. So many of you said that you felt disappointed in the lack of support around infant feeding, safe sleeping with your baby, minding yourself and supporting your own well-being, looking out for signs and strategies around supporting your mental health. And this is why I'm really passionate about this topic. I want to help you to feel really well-minded, really well supported, but also really well educated in what early motherhood can look like. It's such a huge transformation for us to go from, particularly this is your first baby, a place where you are free and independent to do what you want, however you want, whenever you want, to sleep a full night, to go from moving our bodies independently of a little one who now really thinks that they're still inside you. They still think that they're attached to you. And so it can be a lot to manage, a lot to wrap our heads around. And one of you really phrased it really beautifully in that you've prepared for birth. You think you've done the hard work. And then you're handed this newborn baby and said, okay, off you go. When really what your body's probably feeling is I could do with a rest right now. And certainly our hormones carry us. You get that nice boost of energy after birth where you're sort of awake looking at your new baby going, oh my gosh, look what I've done. But then we have this whole recovery that happens. And this transformation from maiden to mother is so huge that there's actually a word for it. We call it matrescence. And this concept of matrescence, where we move from maiden to mother, is on the basis of transformation. And there are many ways in which we can support that transformation. But we have to be gentle on ourselves in knowing that we are going to be stepping into this new version of ourselves, whereby we can't just go to the loo whenever we want. We have to make sure that our little one's needs are met first. We have to make sure that our baby is in a safe space, that they are being fed and clothed and have somewhere safe to sleep. And I think the most interesting thing about this is that it feels almost like a part of you is outside of your body. And I feel like there's no way of describing that better until you actually experience that. But support is going to be key. And I want to go through some really basic stuff that are going to help you to be set up for a more empowered postpartum experience. The first one is understanding how your healing is going to look. You are going to be bleeding for approximately between 4 to 6 weeks after birth. This is both with cesarean and a vaginal delivery. You are going to have a bleed that is different than your typical period-like bleed. It's called lochia. And it looks different, it smells different, and what's happening here is that beautiful site where the placenta was adhered to and that lovely thick lining of the womb that was cushioning our baby's pregnancy is going to come away. And as the sides of the uterus adhere and come back together, our uterus is going to go from a size of a balloon right back down to the size of a fist. Is a good description. And so it's quite a lot of work that our body's got to do, and that can take 6 weeks for that involution to happen. So resting deeply is huge. Resting as much as we can look very different from person to person, but there's a lovely rule that I would love you to follow as much as you can, and that is the 5-5-5 rule. So this looks like 5 days in the bed, 5 days around the bed, 5 days near the bed. And for you, that might be a case of, I'm going to, get up and potter around the house and then go back to bed. I'm going to maybe do some gentle stretches and mobility and then go back to bed. I want that to be your biggest phrase. I'm going back to bed now. And you can carry this through for as long postpartum as you need to. But rest is going to be imperative. Your body has done a lot of work to birth your babies. And you might actually feel that you are stiff in ways that as if you'd just done a huge big workout. So we've got our bleeding, things to notice that are normal and not normal. Very normal for us to have to change our pads every time that we go to the loo. If you've had any tearing or any stitches, I want you to keep that area clean and dry. So that means having a shower once a day, maybe using a little peri bottle when you go to the toilet. The first wee that you do is going to be very stingy, so making sure that your urine is nice and dilute is going to ease that stinginess. So you can either use the peri bottle, do your first wee in the shower, or use your peri bottle as you are peeing to cleanse the area and dilute the urine. Making sure you're drinking enough is also going to be key here. I like to say also to avoid any kind of essential oils or any bubbles when you're having your shower, and kind of fragrance products. Our body is perfectly capable of healing all of those beautiful tears on its own. It can be useful with regards to healing any of that tearing or those stitches if they've been required, to just connect with our pelvic floor to see what sort of connection that we can do. And it's not to do with increasing tone or anything like that yet. It's to do with sending all of that lovely healing blood flow to that area and to bring down any of that tenderness or swelling that can happen when there's trauma. So connecting with your pelvic floor, keeping the urine nice and dilute, changing your pad every time you go to the toilet, and washing in a shower with just nice warm water once a day. When it comes to how you choose to bleed, you can either free bleed directly onto some maybe incontinence sheets, or if you've got some spare dark towels maybe, or you can use these like grown-up pull-ups, which can be really handy and can give some nice gentle compression on that soft, tender belly. And yes, we keep that big bloated belly for a reason. That pregnant-looking belly that keeps us looking about 20 weeks pregnant is there for a reason. It's to support our little babies with that lovely nursing position. And it can take quite a while to go down, so being aware of that and giving yourself plenty of grace as your body changes literally by the day can be really helpful. With regards to the bleeding, then you can also use either reusable pads or big maternity pads, and I like to double layer them so that they are meeting in the middle, because that bleeding can be heavy enough that you'll need to replace those, but particularly in the first 1 to kind of 3 days. Changing those pads out every time you go to the bathroom can keep the area fresh and clean and as dry as possible, and reducing the likelihood of any kind of infection breeding. The other thing that I want you to do with regards to your bleeding is be aware of what is normal and what is not. It is very normal to have to change your pad every time you go to the bathroom. It is not normal for you to go through a pad within an hour to an hour and a half. If it is soaking the pad and going through, that's when you need to contact your healthcare provider. And if you're feeling any abdominal tenderness, or you are passing a clot that is larger than the size of an egg, that's another reason for you to touch base with your healthcare provider. And adding into that any symptoms of a fever, or so your temperature is up, you're feeling kind of some chills, or you are noticing a kind of a purulent, kind of a different smell or a different colored discharge from your lochia. Those are all reasons that you would want to touch base with your healthcare provider. When it comes then to getting breastfeeding off to the best start, I very much say come back to the basics of, if your baby's eyes are open and they are alert enough to feed, offer them both breasts that you're thinking dinner and dessert every time they open their eyes within the first 2 weeks of life. What we're doing is we're sending a really clear message to our body that says we need to make milk for our baby. Our body relies on the release of the placenta, that drop in progesterone that happens, and then a spike in prolactin to make enough milk for our babies. And in order for our bodies then to get a message, our bodies will make an overabundant milk supply in the beginning. And our breasts can be very full and hot and heavy and engorged. And our baby draining the breast well, a lot of this is, lymph and lots of milk, yes, but lymph and blood flow as our body wakes up to its new job to make milk for our babies. But when our little ones are latched on well to the breast, they will effectively drain the breast, and that engorgement should go down within a few days. If you find that your little one is not draining the breast fully, If you find that latching your baby onto the breast is sore, if your nipples are feeling pinched, if they are cracked, if there's any bleeding, or if you feel like your baby is not satisfied at the breast, where they are not having enough wet and dirty nappies. We want at least 6 wet nappies per day. Pouring about 50 mils of water into a dry nappy and kind of feeling that weight, that's a good gauge for a nice wet nappy. So 6 of those per day, and at least 2 dirty nappies per day. You should see the transition in color changing from sticky, tarry, meconium nappy on day 1 to kind of more like a pesto consistency day 2, scrambled egg consistency on day 3, and then more like a korma consistency once that milk has transitioned in from the golden sticky colostrum to the more mature milk. That normally happens around night 2 to day 3 after a physiological birth. And it can take a little bit longer then if you've had maybe a long labor, if you've lost a little bit more than your average blood loss, or you've had a cesarean birth or a long induction. All of these things can impact our breastfeeding experiences, making sure that we are aware of what our newborn norms are, checking in with ourselves in terms of us being the experts on our babies and knowing what that gut feeling looks like, and being able to step into that mama bear role and advocate for our new babies is so hugely important. When it comes to the more pragmatic and practical things for preparing for postpartum, I want you to write a list of your support people. That is going to be your lactation consultant, whoever your mental health care provider is going to be. Maybe it's touching base with the perinatal mental health team in the hospital. Maybe it's your own counsellor, writing those down. I want you to have the details of your doula. I want you to have the details of your GP, your public health nurse. Maybe it's someone who's going to come and give you a massage in-house. Maybe it's going to be your mother. Having someone who's going to walk the dog. Having those on the fridge means that you can have ready access to them if you do need them. Another thing that I would beg you to do is stock up your fridge and your freezer with healthy, wholesome, nourishing foods. It would be wonderful if you didn't have to cook and you could just focus on connecting and bonding with your baby and recovering from birth in that first month. So filling the freezer with things like soups, stews, broths, tray bakes, things that you can just throw in and you don't even have to think about, things that your partner can throw in and doesn't have to think about, that are a no-brainer, easy to digest, full of protein and really nourishing for our body. Our bowels can take a while to kind of get back into action, particularly if we're doing a little bit more resting. So things that are also high in fiber can be really helpful. I encourage new mamas to also add in something like a chia pudding, or some prune juice or stewed fruit with maybe a little bit of yogurt to help the digestive tract to really get that little bit of a jostle and a massage and to keep moving. So our food can either be medicine or poison. And so supporting our bodies in the way that we are feeding ourselves, in the way that we are nourishing ourselves with healing broths and teas can be hugely beneficial. The other thing that can be really helpful to prepare are one-handed snacks. As soon as you sit down to feed your baby, you are going to be both thirsty because we get that nice release of oxytocin that makes us like a mouth like the Sahara Desert. And also you can be really, really hungry. Our energy requirements when it comes to making milk are actually greater than those when we were growing our baby in utero. So making sure that we are eating enough, and one-handed snacks can be a really lovely way to do that. So you're thinking flapjacks, you're thinking hummus and crackers, you're thinking bliss balls or energy balls. Things that you can nibble with one hand while you are nursing your baby are going to be really easy for you to get into your system and really minimal mess, minimal fuss. So having your partner prepare some of those before they go back to work can be a really lovely thing to do for them. And when we're thinking about meals, we also want to think about the support that's going to be around us. We used to live in these communities where we were well-minded and well-supported by our elders, by our neighbors, by fellow mothers. Nowadays, we have to nudge into making these communities for ourselves. So that can start now. That can start with, yes, filling the freezer, yes, preparing your partner for how it's going to look for them to support you, with you feeding the baby and them feeding you. But also it can look like, do I need a meal kit delivery service for the first few months? Is that what I want to ask for on my registry instead of the fancy cot that my little one probably won't want to sleep in? Is it going to be touching base with those who are around me and when my neighbor has their baby, I'm going to drop off a nice hot meal to them. In creating that expectation that we support each other in this way. There is also a fabulous website if you don't feel like doing it yourself or having a friend do it up for you, whereby you can set up a meal train. So this is where you plug your friend's details in and they are given a day each week, or for maybe the first week or second week of birth, where they know what day to come and drop a meal to you. Creating those expectations can mean that the support and the community around you is so much more nourishing. Let's talk a little bit more about community and the support aspect. And in particular, let's talk about visitors. I think that there needs to be certain criteria when it comes to people visiting your home when you've got a tiny new baby. Number 1, don't come uninvited. Number 2, stay for a very short period of time. We are thinking under an hour. Don't hold the baby unless you've been invited to. Make sure your hands are super clean. Always arrive with food and go ahead and wash the dishes or sweep the floor. Take the laundry away and wash it and bring it back folded and clean. All of these things can be so beneficial and supportive, and that's my sort of criteria for an ideal visitor. Anyone who is going to come into your home and expect to be waited on, to be minded, to be fed, who's just going to sit down and wait to hold the baby, is not somebody you want to be wishing into your newborn bubble. And being really mindful of that, going as far as to send out a text to people to say, baby's arrived, here's our little criteria, or we're not accepting visitors right now, or just sticking a sign on the door. Sometimes words speak louder than anything, can be really, really helpful to help you find those boundaries and be able to then stick to them. So being mindful of visitors, setting the tone in how you support other mothers in your community. If you do feel like you're doing this on your own, looking at the ways that you can best set yourself up for success. Getting only the essentials and seeking out the support elsewhere for other things. So your baby only needs somewhere safe to sleep, whether that's in a cot, a co-sleeper, or safely co-sleeping in the bed with you. Looking at the Safe Sleep 7 for support around that. I also have a lovely download for you that I can link at the bottom of this video for safe co-sleeping. And then something to wear and something to eat. So our babies don't require a huge amount of stuff. If you can lean into how you can mind yourself, how you can nourish yourself in your postpartum experience, I would much rather you spend your money there. So I next want to touch on what I call the daily essentials. And this is very much 1 or 2 things that you know that you need to do every single day in order to thrive in your postpartum. It might look different for you than it does for the next person, but for me, in those early days, it was, I need to get a poop in solo. No baby on my lap. Making sure that my partner supported me, and that was huge. And the other thing was getting outside for a moment. And that mostly in the early days was me very gently opening up the windows or coming downstairs in those later days and just taking a few deep breaths, getting my feet into the soil. And after that, I felt like I could take on the world if I didn't get those 2 things. For you, it might look very different. For you, it might be, I need to have a shower. I need to move my body a little bit without a baby being on me. Our babies, it is very normal for them to want to be close to their person. Generally, that's on your body. If you're breastfeeding, that can be nursing a lot. If you are not breastfeeding, they want to be maybe skin to skin or in the carrier, in the wrap. Our babies will do an awful lot of sleeping in those early days, but they might need support to sleep. We are going to be that support. We are going to be that anchor. Our little ones typically, unless you get one of these rare unicorn babies, will need support to sleep for the first year of life. And that might look like bum patting, shushing, rocking, nursing to sleep, suckling to sleep, singing, humming, all of these various different things. But that can take a lot on us. That's what I like to call taking touch. And so it's important as mothers that we balance that with the things that feel good for us, with maybe some giving touch, whether that's receiving a massage getting into a nice hot bath at the end of a day. Maybe it's moving your body in a nourishing way with a walk in the sunshine or some yoga. But knowing that this takes a lot from us means that we can better prepare for that so that we can then support our babies in the way that they need. With so many other, with other types of animals, these babies come out and they stay on their body. You're thinking about mammals like kangaroos, marsupials like koalas, they stay on their body. Monkeys have their babies holding onto their backs. Our babies are exactly the same. They don't realize that they are separate from us. And so investing in a really good baby wearing carrier or a wrap can be a fabulous investment. And it means that we can have our babies on us, giving them the connection and the reassurance that they need in a way that also means we can be hands-free, so that we can do the dishes, prepare ourselves that one-handed snack, give our dog or our infant sibling a little bit of attention in a way that is more meaningful and more direct. So that would probably be one of my top tips. Invest in a nice carrier for yourself. I will try my best to link some of my favorites down below. So preparing for postpartum is such a huge undertaking. And I hope that this video gave you a little bit of an insight into the newborn norms and how you can best set yourself up for success. I'm going to leave attached to this video my free postpartum plan. So go ahead, print it out, stick it on your fridge, and start jotting down those bits and pieces that can help you to have a more empowering postpartum experience.